All right, well, welcome to session 7, the final session in our crash course on church marketing, really trying to help pastors understand all the different channels and how they work together. And this is a good one because this one sounds more spiritual than some of the others.
Yeah.
Right, being honest. This is like outreach marketing. We're going into your community, doing positive stuff, probably stuff we should be doing anyway as churches, but just kind of using that a little bit to kind of get people interested.
Yeah, and the illustration we talk a lot about is building a bridge to your community. And if you know, a bridge is obviously two ways. So a bridge to, hey, where your church is going in, being able to bless your community, be active in your community. And then also the bridge exists for inviting your community to come be a part of events that you're hosting at your church that's designed for your community. So think about outreach, you're thinking about a two-way bridge. We'll talk about that a lot. It doesn't have to be just one of those things. It's both of those things working together.
And this is probably another, we talked about this in some other sessions as well, but this is probably one of those things. Your church is probably already doing some of this stuff. Like this is just simply taking what you're doing or should be doing and just adding just a little bit, just a tiny little bit on it that kind of helps turn that flywheel even a little more.
Yeah, if we can give you a couple tips that take those things that you are doing and make them more effective, then this will be really worth your time here.
So we've been trying to do like an aha moment every time. Let's do the aha moment for
this. I think simply this is being willing to ask the question, what does your community need right now? So just saying, hey, what, as we look around our community, as we talk to community leadership, what does our community need right now? Make a list of a top few things and then see, God, have you equipped our church to be the answer to one of these things? And that's really, again, hopefully you've noticed through these episodes, like we're trying to find that intersection of, where your church is being gifted by God and called by God and what your community opportunities are. And when those cross over, man, that is really where you're going to find a lot of momentum there.
I was working with the church one time and was up consulting with their leadership team. And we got on this question of they had an Easter egg hunt that they did the week before Easter. And the church, it was in a pretty good prominent location in town. But for the last 5 or 6 years, they've been having like 100 people come to the Easter egg hunt. And the leaders were saying, it's mostly our own kids. I mean, it's like these people in the room and their kids. But it's for the community. How come we can't get other people to come in the community? So we started talking about it, going back and forth, talking about a bunch of ideas. And then, I don't know, about 15 or 20 minutes into it, somebody said, the city that the church is in, they do their own Easter egg hunt. They do it the week after ours, so like the Saturday before Easter, at the park that's right across the street from our church. And a couple thousand people go to it, and it's a big event. It just was fascinating to me because the church was trying to compete with the city. The city was doing one, and I said, well, how come y'all are doing your own? And they're like, because that one's disorganized. So many people go to it, it's disorganized, it's not as good. And I was like, wait, what if you just help that one be better? And so you asked the question of like, what does your community need? That particular community did not need 2 Easter egg hunts. Right? But they had a citywide event that clearly needed volunteers.
Yep.
And so what if that church could, instead of competing with, partner with the city and just go help them to wear their church t-shirts? And now it's like a win-win-win for everybody involved, from kids all the way up to the city officials.
Yeah, and I know we talked a lot about this off camera. It's just the idea of pastors being willing to look at partnership opportunities and don't feel the need and the pressure to create your own big thing. Look for other opportunities in your community, other nonprofits and charities that are doing great work, and partner with them to just help them do that work. And you had some good examples.
Well, again, you asked this question like, how well do you know the needs of your community? And so let's say you get together and you say, these are the top 3 needs of our community. Well, it doesn't mean you have to create something to meet every need in your community. You could partner. And it doesn't mean you need to address every need in your community. Some other church may be better equipped to do that. So the whole principle of just focusing in on a specific need, a specific area, a specific problem, through partnerships, through involving your people, like you could do more by being focused than by trying to be everywhere all the time.
Yep. And when you do that approach where you truly are adding value to your community, man, your community and your community leaders look at your church as a vital part. And like if your church were to go away, a big part of the community would be missing. And that's really, you want to weave, your mission throughout the community so people perceive you as like, man, we love that church loves our community and we love them because they deliver so much value. And so one of the tips that we had too as you're looking at this is don't underestimate what you can do over the next 1 to 2 decades. I know a lot of pastors, like, you're all about the now and like, what can we do huge now? But in this, I would encourage you to think going deeper with one simple idea over the long haul. And I was a part of a church that did this very thing like 20 years ago, went to the city leadership and asked them, what's the biggest need right now? And the biggest thing that came out of that meeting was, you know what? Our school systems are behind on our paint schedule. So like, okay, we can do that.
Paint.
And so church was smaller then, but decided, hey, once a year we'll go in and paint one of the schools. Then the church began to grow. Man, we could do 2 schools. Then the church began to grow. Maybe we could not only paint, we could redo the teacher's lounge, we could redo the landscaping, we could redo the playground. And now you look at 2 decades later, and the church has probably had an impact on almost every single school and school district in that area. All the school superintendents from those school districts come that Sunday night from that weekend and talk about what the school vision is and where they're headed, how we can pray for them. And you look at the impact because they decided to ask the question, meet a need, and do that for decades. And now you look at it and the community is like being impacted and transformed, literally and figuratively, because of that idea and that approach.
And this, even though we don't think of it, is a form of marketing. This is a form of advertising. And so we've been throughout this whole course talking about how these things can work together. So when you're out painting the school, make sure somebody's taking a picture, posting it to social media, tagging the school, say, did you go to the school when you were a kid? Tag a teacher that teaches at this school. Right now you're like mixing and matching all these things, and by being out in the community, by doing good stuff and just talking about it, not in a self-serving way, but like in a very appropriate way, like we love our community and so we're glad to do this. That is a form of marketing.
Yep. And one other tip that's associated with these type of events, at any point when it's appropriate and you're able to collect people's contact information through the events, do it. A lot of churches, you'll put on these big events, you'll have all your community members, and then you don't have a way to get a hold of them, to follow up with them. That doesn't mean you're going to spam them. It means you can add value, you can follow up with them. If maybe you had a great Easter egg hunt and you want to deliver pictures, family photos, you had a photo booth, like think through how are we going to gather contact information so we can go on a longer term relationship journey with people who are associated with this event. And I love any sort of ideas like that, bringing in social media, showing, like if you're going to redo the teacher's lounge, man, create a conversation around just loving on those teachers in your community.
Here's why we do it. Here's why we love teachers.
Love it. I get photos of those teachers and just go crazy, just celebrating them, and have everybody post like their favorite moment from those teachers. Like create community conversations around what the church is doing. And is it self-promotion? Kind of, yeah, subtly, but you're leading with like kind of the whole thing the community is celebrating, in that not as much the church is in the background, just making it happen.
And you can be subtle. I'd encourage you to be subtle, but be intentional, right? So choose these partnerships. Don't feel like if you went and painted one wall in every school, it wouldn't have made an impact, right? Focus your efforts. Focus, send people. Create these community partnerships. When you do stuff, do it repeatedly over time and give it a chance to grow, right? And that'll make a big difference.
Yep. So as we're wrapping up this episode, I want you to think in terms of what are some associated events. So like, do you have a couple examples? I think you mentioned like a blood drive is a good one. Like you don't have to put that on, but the church can host it.
I mean, the church we go to here in Atlanta opened up their building, which was kind of closed during COVID time anyway, to the Red Cross, and they were doing a blood drive, and in fact the Red Cross sent out a email that's like, you were the top site for all of the state of Georgia for giving blood, and our church asked us to come up there and give blood, and so they didn't have to like the pastor's not up there with the syringe, right? But they just open the doors. I mean, that's something that you can do. There are organizations in your community doing good work where you can just be a resource, even sometimes a physical resource. That makes a big difference.
Yep. So think about kind of those things that you can partner that maybe is like, oh, we could never do that, but could you open your facility? Those are great partnerships with other nonprofits that are doing great work. Another thing that you can do is think about associated events. So maybe you're going to do something specifically as you're going out in the community to do some sort of kids ministry. So that's going that way on the bridge. You might do an associated event that weekend that's a family movie night where while you're out in the community, you're inviting, hey, we're also hosting a family movie night. So you're kind of thinking through both aspects of that bridge in that context, and then you're able to build more of an experience and a relationship opportunity because you have multiple touch points there.
And again, this is a form of marketing. You're building the brand of not just your church, but like of the community, of the kingdom. It's like, hey, we're for the community. We're out in the community. We're a part of the community. You're creating positive mental images when people see that stuff. It is a form of marketing.
Yeah, and especially for a younger generation, a very powerful form of marketing. If you look at any sort of brands reaching, people sub 30, sub 20, they're doing probably cause-based marketing because everybody wants to be associated with a brand or an organization that's doing great work.
And it's stuff we should be doing anyway,
right,
as Christians and as churches.
Right.
So I love the simple action step that we've got here. This is a great conversation. You could have this as a staff meeting. You could send a text off to your staff right now and just ask this. And just, what are the 3 needs of our community? Like, if we had to make a top 3 needs list in our community, like, what are they?
Yep.
If we don't know how to answer that, we should probably dig into some information. But what are those things? And then how are we addressing them? Are we partnering? Are we creating? Are we saying, hey, somebody else can pick that up? That's okay. What are those top 3 things?
Yep. So guys, that's the 7 areas of marketing. Hopefully the aha moments, the action steps have been very actionable. Hopefully this allows your church to keep reaching more people. What we're going to do next is we want this to be an ongoing conversation with you. So we are going to do some moments where we get your questions after going through this course, and Michael and I are going to do a live in and around the questions in real time. So wherever you're watching this, if you want to give us feedback or send us an email like, hey, great content. Hopefully you say great content, but hey,
Except for that Michael.
I've got follow-up questions on this, or what about this? What about this? We're going to curate those questions. We're going to pull them together, and then stay tuned to your email inbox, because we're going to do some occasional Facebook Lives where we're going to do frequently asked questions in and around this content. So thank you for going on this journey with us. It's been an honor on our end, to be a small part of your church's journey. Hopefully this has been helpful, and hopefully we'll get the chance to go on that conversation journey with you in a live upcoming.
Yep. Thanks for watching.